Hello, my friends, and we are back today looking at the Star Convoy, or Star Optimus Prime, as they're choosing to call him here because, Optimus Prime being the American name. But Star Optimus Prime does not roll off the tongue very well, so I'm going to keep calling him Star Convoy because that's who that is. And as you can see, we're looking at a Titan figure, so it is going to be hard for me to get him all on frame most of the time. That being said, he is a very small Titan. Like, he is smaller than Omega Supreme, who was kind of the smallest Titan to begin with. He's bigger than Commander Class Jetfire, but he's smaller than any other Titan. But he does come off pretty solid for what you're getting. Plus, you get a bunch of stuff, a bunch of stuff here, and we'll go over that here in just a moment. But first, let's take a look here at the packaging. I've got it on top of things here because I don't have room. But there is that really cool artwork of Star Convoy holding the star thingy, which is now his prime symbol because he's now officially the 13th prime. Nice little rollout there with him and Hot Rod and the goofiest base mode and goofy base mode history. So the goofy base mode thing is nothing new. So for people who complain about some of these robots that have been putting out with some goofy base modes, remember, this came first. And we got some primes here in the background, specifically all of the primes that are coming out this year, with the exception of Micronus, who instead is replaced with Vector, who's technically already been out. But still really cool artwork. Up top we have the Transformers 13, Optimus Prime, and the 13 statues and their symbols, which of course this does have a very interesting thing for Star Convoy, not looking like Star Convoy, instead looking like Power Master Optimus Prime, which is very interesting that they did that. Here on the side, again, you have this little bit of the statues there. Here on the other side, you have another really cool piece of artwork of Star Convoy, Age of the Primes. Then on the back, of course, you have your CGI renders for your product shots. All the things it can do, kind of, sort of. And boy, Hot Rod does not look comfortable sitting in there the way he sits in there. But yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Now on to Star Convoy himself. He does come packaged in robot mode, but he does have some assembly required, and he does come with a whole slew of things. So right off the bat, in the box, packaged on top of everything, you have his gun. You have this big blue bolt that's very solid, hard plastic. You, of course, have Hot Rod, or Rodimus, Hot Rodimus, however you want to call it. Then in one bag, you get these bits and bobs here. So you get, of course, his ears, because you need to assemble his ears. You get this thing here, which, of course, is the Rodimus Prime Anomalous gun turret thingy. And we'll show that off a little bit more when we get to his various modes. We get his shoulder cannons. We get his little thingy here. And we'll explain this thingy here in a little bit. Then in another baggie, you get the little star ball thingy. And then you get this thingy. So this thingy here that looks like a little blue bullet. Get a closer here look at it. This is not called out anywhere in the instructions. Now, I'm not somebody who generally looks at instructions because I can figure this all out pretty. You put a transformer in my hand, I can figure it out most of the time. But every once in a while, something stumps me and I have to look at it. And this stumped me, and it's not in the instructions. Nowhere. The only thing I think this was for is for the gun. So here in the gun, there is a slot here. And there's a little grooves right here on either side of that slot. It's kind of hard to see because it's black and it's dark in there. And this little bullet snaps in there and fits perfectly. And it's pretty easy to pull back out. So I think that's what that's for. I never had the Vintage Star Convoy, so I don't know if he had this. And this was sort of a reference to that, and I just dropped that bullet. But it's not a blast effect. It does have a little hole here, but it's too big to work as a blast effect. And then the outside of this is too big to fit in as a blast effect anywhere. And there's nowhere else for this to go. So I think this is the bullet for the gun, and you just snap it in there like that. That's what I think. Anyway, moving on, in another baggie, you get, whoa, that went flying. These two nice, my favorite of the blast effects that they gave us when they started giving us blast effects, it was definitely these ones here. These have sort of a metallic shine to them. And they are semi-translucent. The back of the box makes these look a lot more translucent than they are, but you can still sort of kind of see through them. And then, of course, you also get this blast effect plus the 3 little flame bits that go on it in a somewhat metallic Hito color. Again, the back of the box makes this seem very transparent. And if it was this color but fully transparent, I think this would look really good. But as it stands, it's not the best. It's also very loose on this one, which I've had loose versions of this before. And also, it feels very slick. It's hard to explain that. It feels slick. It feels like the type of the vinyl things that turn sticky after a while. That's what this feels like, and that's what's got me worried. But we'll see what happens. And then, of course, you also have this in 2 halves, his little tread thing that is now officially roller. This is also in the box. It was sitting off here to the side while I was looking at things. His little trailer thing here. Yeah, so that's in there as well. And yeah, there is that. So first things first, let's do our assembly. So we have our ears, which are just going to plug in right here. If you can see that there on the side, just snaps in, he says, with the greatest of ease. He says, okay, hold on a minute. This was unnecessarily difficult. So there's little tabs here on the side that basically work like a hinge that you have to sort of get into the right position, and then you can just hinge that up and snap it into place. But getting that to line up in the first place, this is very, very tight in here. So you may have to consider loosening up these screws back here if you're having problems getting that in. I didn't do that, but it's a thing that may have to happen. So basically, yeah, same thing on the other side. All right, then once he got his ears in place, and you take your little black dual barrel guns here and just plug them in to his shoulders. Little 5mm port right up there. And now technically our Star Convoy is complete. There is, of course, a few more things to go through here. So let's start things off with the littlest addition to this little group thing here. And that's going to be our Micromaster. And yes, he is referred to as a Micromaster hot rod. Let's see here. I really love it. Man, it doesn't look as good on camera, but this is a really gorgeous metallic gold right here, which looks really, really good. Here is not. It is a slight metallic matte finish, but it is sort of that mustard color. Same thing here with the legs. And he is just a nice little car. He rolls pretty well. Bumping all this stuff everywhere because I've got so much of this little crud everywhere. Out of the way. Out of the way. There we go. And for a quick comparison, here he is next to the I guess, old now core class hot rod from just a few years ago. You can see how these guys scale together. A bit wider, but about the same, overall about the same size. And here he is with a modern Micromaster. I wanted to grab one of my vintage Micromasters to compare this off, but I can't find them. I don't know. I've got a box of Minicons somewhere. They're probably mixed in with those. But anyway, now in vehicle mode, you can store Hot Rod in here. So let's take a good look at this thing right here. This thing, I'm sure, has a name. I don't know what that name is because I never actually read the things that came out for Return of Convoy. Did it have a name in Brave? Because this was in Brave too. Just for those that don't know, the other components that can combine with Star Convoy were reused for Brave, and this was one of the things that was reused. But I don't remember if they had a name for this thing. But anyway, he's got a little ramp right here in the back, and you can just drive right on in there and have Hot Rod sitting in there kind of loose. Can you fit anything else in there? I don't think so. I don't think something like smaller figures like Bumblebee or anything would fit in there. You might be able to stick him in there. Yeah, there you go. So there is that. And now, very interesting thing here. So this does plug onto him in city mode or base mode, whatever you want to call it. And the way they've got this sculpted and designed is if you have two of these, you can plug them side by side. So I don't think that's a confirmation that Sky Gary or Grandis is coming, but it does make it seem like they designed this with the possibility of something like Grandis or Sky Gary getting made in the future. So I like that. I dig that a lot. All right, so Hot Rod's transformation here is pretty simple, all things considered. You're just going to want to pop off the sides right here. Obviously, those are his arms. Then you unfold this right here, flip these pieces in just like that, flip them around, and fold down his chest. And there you have Hot Rod in his robot mode. And this is very accurate to the way the old Micromaster actually transformed and looked. Having the spoilers here on his legs instead of on his back. And he is on the back. You see big hollow legs, but that's due to transformation. I kind of wish that this piece here rotated. This is a separate piece, by the way. So this is screwed in right down in here, right through his midriff here. So this could have been a piece that could have rotated. That way, even though it's accurate to the original toy, it cleaned this area up here a little bit more and also gives some third-party whack jobs their ability to, make a spoiler for him if they really wanted to. Now, articulation-wise, he has ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed elbows, ball-jointed hips, and swivel knees or hinged knees, however you want to say it. And that is it. He doesn't have any other articulation, no waist rotation, no head swivel, no nothing else, no ankle tilts because there's no ankles. Very, very basic. His arms can only go out about that far, but you can get a full 360 here, forward, back, out to about there. And due to transformation, obviously, you can bend that all the way in. But yeah, he is a neat little hot rod. Now for comparison, here he is with the old core class hot rod. So as you can see, once again, about the same size. I think the core class is just a smidge shorter. And here he is again with a modern Micromaster. So you can see how that looks. And so now we're looking at this thing. There we go. So on the vintage toy, this was the big battery pack with the motorized, motor. Motorized motors. You just snap that together, and there you have a platform that kind of also looks like it could be feet. It's not, but it looks like it could be. And just get a 360 look at this here. You can see it's not too crazy. There's plenty of little sculpted detail, but nothing really picked out in paint. And as I said before, this is now canonically roller. I don't know where that was decided or when that happened, but I know that's what everybody says online. And, you know, internet being full of shit is not unheard of, but in this case, it makes sense. But yeah, and of course, you can plug these on to the back of Star Convoy's legs, and we will show that off here in just a moment as we move into Star Convoy proper. All right, so now let's take a good look at our Star Optimus Prime Star Convoy here. There's going to be a little bit of shaky cam here, because my tripod at max that is that high. Not very conducive for big figures, but as you can see, he's got some nice sculpted detail here in the shoulders, as well as a tempoed on Autobot symbol there with the little almost elite guard looking thing there. Get a good look here at the head. Very cool head design. I've always really dug this look, this design for Optimus Prime. He does have light piped eyes. They're not the best. Kind of need to have really good light, which I currently, I guess, don't have. I have this thing. That's this thing. And there you can see he's got some good light piping there. But for the most part, he kind of has dead eye syndrome. Sometimes when you have something like that, if you take the head apart and pull out that clear part and just put something reflective underneath it, that will oftentimes fix that. Now, if you've seen online already, people have been reporting this. I don't know if you can really make that out. You see how this sort of curves back here, how the window sort of curves back here. You come over here on this side, it does not. This is the correct way. Come on, focus. You don't like being that close. It's too much power. There you go. So it is supposed to line up perfectly in there, and it does not. So this does just open down, you know. Spoiler for later. So basically, this is not going into the peg that's on here is not going into the little post right in here. So it's not snapping into place like it should. They say online you can just unscrew this and easily get it to fit in there. So I will probably do that afterwards. I definitely, if they were both like that, I probably wouldn't have noticed that and wouldn't have cared. But since one is flush and one is not, obviously I noticed and I cared. Coming down here, we can see nice little gold picked out details with the little black on the inside there for the not headlights. Nice silver paint here. That is a different color silver paint than what the rest of it is for the grill. I don't know if you can really see that on camera. And there is his crotch. Here's his arms. Got nice, really cool sculpted detail right there. I kind of dig that. Coming down the side here. Coming down to his legs and his big yellow knees. All the way down to his toesies. And coming up the back here, he does get sculpted detail on the back of the legs. Even though those technically get covered up, he does have a very clean back, no big hunkin' backpack, which is really nice. All in all, pretty good. Now, one issue I do have with this, it's not like a QC issue, it's just a design issue, and that is the way his feet are done. As you can see, they're done with those, you know how they have the pinned in wheels? That's how his ankle tilts are done here.
Now on the other side, it gets covered up here by the shin, but still it doesn't feel the best. It is currently very, very tight, and he is able to get a good, nice, solid stance, but over time, I worry about that. But on that note, let's talk about articulation. Back up here to the top as best as we can go. So the head is just on a swivel. It just goes side to side. You can untab it and move it forward, and that's kind of what they've done for city mode. You can also do this with the ears if you really wanted to. Don't know why you would, but hey, you can do it. Obviously, because these are just pegged in, you can rotate them and raise the turrets up and down. The shoulders are on a nice, solid ratchet. Oh, that's almost like a machine gun. All the way around, as well as in and out. We do have a bicep rotation and another not quite as chunky, but still pretty chunky ratchet at the elbow. Wrists are on a swivel, and we do have opening and closing hands, just one solid chunk for the fingers. I will say once again, hollow hands. I hate that. Again, more expensive piece, having bits that are hollow. Not a big fan of that, but it is what it is. We're just going to have to deal with that going forward. Things are probably only going to get worse. There we go. So his crotch flap here is on a little hinge. He does get up out of the way. He's also got side skirts that get up out of the way. So his legs can do a full front to back. Also on a nice chunky ratchet. He also gets very good chunky ratchets out to the side. So he can do a full split. He does have a thigh swivel. And another big chunky ratchet for the knees. They look like they should go a little bit further than 90, but they don't. They only go about that far. And then due to transformation, you also get some toe pivot. Toe pivot. Words are hard. Oh, and of course a waist swivel also on a nice chunky ratchet. And even though he does have opening and closing hands, he does still have the 5mm port sort of sculpted in there. So you can have him hold on to his gun just by sort of pegging it in. I think this one works better. Yeah, see how you got this little tab right here? That's meant to actually tab in to that slot where the swivel is on his hand. So he does have to hold the gun there, but he holds that pretty well. Likewise, he can also hold this as a handgun if you want him to for whatever reason. Just plug that in there, and boom, you can do that. Now, all of these, of course, are blast effect compatible, and he comes with plenty of blast effects, so you can, go absolutely hog wild with all of this stuff here. However you choose to do this. I'm not going to take these all apart. I'm just going to stick them all on there, but yeah, there you go. There you go. That's why I don't like this one. This one always does this because it's too heavy for the soft material that they use. And of course, likewise, you also have this. You can also plug that in. It's a little bit tighter, but it will go in there. Hard plastic. I wish they were all like this. And then, of course, you get this thing, which they show him holding like a sword and putting the blast effects in here to make it a big flaming torch sword. That's kind of stupid. And then, of course, the little star orb. So you can open up his chest. And then right in here, there's his little cockpit. And right back in there, going to be hard to see, there's like this little raised area here with a little curve cut out in it and a little hole right there. So you can plug this right in to there. You go. Just
like that if you want to have that sitting in there. Now, I will say, when you're opening and closing this, you actually kind of have to flex this down a little bit to get it to tab in here. So if you try to just tab it in, it sits up too high. Those tabs go too high. So you do actually have to sort of flex. I'm not a fan of that, but that is what it is. Anyway, you can open up his legs just like so. So you can put in this thing. So he does still have opening doors here for his truck mode and for his city mode. But this thing is too big to roll in through here. So now you have to actually open it up, and he's got these little square holes here, and he will tab in to these square pegs here. However, this is one of those, if you're into Transformers, you probably heard the expression, sometimes excessive force is necessary. That's because all the toys used to say excessive force is not necessary. Parts are made to pop off, etc. But sometimes excessive force is necessary. This is one of these cases. So these legs here are the only part of this that doesn't feel like robust plastic. It's very flexible plastic. So don't feel too bad having to put as much force as it takes to get this all the way in there. Whew. Okay, so you do have to make sure that it does plug all the way in, because if it doesn't, this will not close. And it's usually this backside here that's the problem. Now, getting it back out, we'll probably have to do that off camera because that is hard. Now, the instructions want you to take this thing and plug it into one of these peg holes here, which you can totally do if you want to do that. I don't want to do that, and let me explain my reasoning for this. If you look at this goofy torch-looking thing here and turn it this way, that's the Matrix. That is totally the Matrix. Now, this will not fit in his chest this way, but it will fit in his chest this way. So I think you should probably put it in here, like so. And now that's more of being on a pedestal. And ta-da, ta-da, boom. If I had not actually looked at the instructions, that's where I would have assumed that would have gone, just because it's the Matrix. But if you do that, then you can't cram your hot rod in there. Speaking of, let's cram a hot rod in there. So kind of get him in his little sitting pose here. There is a little ledge back here. It's just a very small ledge, but it's high enough to where this part of his back should, he says, in theory, very comfortably rest. And then once you get that in there, well, that's not quite the way you're supposed to get them in there, but hey, you can get them in there, and then you can still close all this up, and voila, boom, done. And that's where he'll stay forever. Anywho, now just for a couple of size comparisons, here he is with the Studio Series 86 Optimus. There's his mini-me, if you will. You can see he comes up just shy of the top of his knees. And for another size comparison, one that's kind of appropriate for everything going on right now, here is Titan class Devastator. Of course, Devastator and Omega Supreme, of course, were previously the smallest Titans. So as you can see here, yeah, he's a lot smaller. So that definitely puts him a little bit smaller than the Nemesis and the Ark, which right now I can't get to a size comparison of them. But yeah. So again, a much smaller Titan, but I think pretty cool for what you get. Now, Hot Rod can interact with this in robot mode as well using this thing. So you want to unfold this and snap it into place. And there we have sort of a new version of his old trailer gun. Of course, this was, a gun that also came with Star Convoy. Now, the pictures always just show him standing, like right here, like that somehow magically works, and it doesn't. Gotta love those CGI renders. So the way this actually works, he's got these two little hooks right here. So you want to fold these out, and then you want to hook these right in there and sort of straighten out his fins as best as you can. Easier said than done. This is precarious. I'm going to say that. This is precarious. And then you take these and fold them up until these tabs on the back of his little back of the feet things here are clipped onto them. You do want to get this positioned where it's like that. Again, it's one of those easier said than done things because he doesn't have any. I mean, he's got holes in his hands, but there's nothing here for him to grip on. So you're actually needing that friction from these tabs in order for him to stay on this, which is important when we get to the gimmick in base mode. But anyway, so you can take this and just plug it onto one of the holes and have him do that. And of course, you can also untab this piece, and this will plug in to one of the other holes. And then right here, these little hollow bits right here, a little tough to get out, but once you do, now you got another little gun turret right there. Just like that. Yay. All right, and as we mentioned, these two halves of roller here can just untab, and they will tab on to the backs of his legs, provided I got these flipped the right way. Do I have them flipped the right way? I think so. Maybe? No? Is it this way? It's this way. That way. Just tab on there. Giving him, make sure that's all the way in, because there's not just those clips that you saw, there's also little tabs on the outside of there. And that gives him the complete full silhouette with the treads. So, our first step here is going to take his forearms, and we want to get right in here and untab these. And then we want to start rotating this. Now, this whole piece here is on a slider. And it's pretty easy to get that to rotate around and just sort of snap into place. Getting it back into robot mode, though, you do kind of want to sort of pull it out on that slider and then tab it into place. Just like that. Boom. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Each of the arms, you're going to rotate this around this way, then rotate his forearm around this way, and then this panel with the Autobot logo, you're going to fold that down. Then you want to take the whole arm and fold it just like that. Then you're going to pop open the chest, pull these out, and right in here, there's little panels. You want to pull these out as well. Come on. There we go. And then you're going to take the whole head and tilt it forward until it snaps into place right there. And again, you can move these antennas out of the way if you need to, but they should clear that pretty easily. Then you're going to take the chest and close it back up. Next, pop these off. These are right here on the shoulders. See this panel right here? That's where the actual hinge is, but this panel clips in right here. It is a pretty solid click. And then just rotate this around. And then sandwich this together just like that.
And then make sure the top here also sandwiches together. And now we've got the cab. So next, we're going to come here, unfold this piece, and then unfold this piece, and bring that down. And then rotate the entire thing here at the waist. Just like so. Now we can go ahead and snap the legs together. Save us some problems there later. Then down here on the legs, again, shaky camera, sorry about that. We're going to pop off these side panels, which will then let us open up the legs. Now, if you want to store this, now's the time to do it. Take the crotch now and unfold it in the middle. So you have this back panel here and this other panel here in the front. And you want to unfold that just like so. And then when you close back up the legs, on the back of the knees, there's these little teeth pieces right here that are going to tab in right there. Now, if your legs are not fully extended and your waist is twisted slightly, those may not plug in, but if everything's lined up correctly, it should plug in just fine. Now, these panels right here, they have a little hook right here that's going to go into this slot right there. Not the best connection, if I'm being honest. It's one of those that likes to push itself back out. Also, make sure up here that there's little tabs right there, and make sure these tab in to the side right there. Then we're going to extend this whole panel up, and right here, this tab and these little holes that are right here are going to go into this slot and into these little pegs right there. Do that on both sides. And lay him down, lay him down, lay him down. Hello. And there we have Star Convoy in his vehicle mode. Now, they did fix something that the vintage toy had, because the vintage toy just had this big gap right here with nothing there. So now this is a little bit more solid. But yeah, man, my camera is making this red really wash out. This red's a lot darker than what my camera is making it look like. It's a lot less orange and a lot more just sort of dark Optimus Prime red. And we do expose a few new details down in here, but again, my camera's kind of washing that out. And going down the side, here we have that. Now, one thing that is kind of bothersome. So these side panels here on his legs, this is all paint. It's all paint and tampo. They made this like metallic silver and metallic blue that then bleeds straight into gray plastic and metallic blue. I know, with everything going on right now, having that be painted all the way across to make it, that nice silver was not going to happen. But I think if that was the case, they could have just made this a gray paint to match this a little bit better. On camera, it kind of looks like it's the same, but trust me, in hand, this is a much more metallic silver paint right through here than this is. Alrighty. Now, he does roll pretty well. He's got pinned on wheels. Obviously, these tank treads aren't actually tank treading. There's just little wheels underneath here. And then he's got the 2 wheels there and the 2 wheels there. And he rolls pretty well because he's a big, heavy chunk of plastic. So now, to complete the look in vehicle mode, we come up here to the top. Right here, we got a big, thick hole. and that's for this big thick post that will just go right in there, and that completes the look of the vintage toy, at least from what I've seen. But we do also now have this post here exposed, which you can use to plug the big gun on right there in the middle. And so now he is very heavily armed. And of course, as you saw before, they're all blast effect compatible.
Now here he is with hot rod in vehicle mode, so you can kind of see how that scales. I mean, it's a big one. It's a big one. But we do have one more mode, the most notorious, most famous MicroMaster base mode in the history of goofy MicroMaster base modes. Before we go into base mode, I did want to show this off here. So these panels do open up back here. And as you can see, they do have the little MicroMaster or previous CityBot combiner pegs right here, so they can plug together. Also back here, I didn't show this off in the truck mode here, but this also has a peg and a post here, so you can have two of these pegged together. Again, them thinking ahead, but you can open this from here. So you can still roll your hot rod in there and close him up so he can ride along like that if you so choose to do so. So I thought that's pretty neat. Now let's get him into the greatest base mode ever made. So we want to go ahead and pull off these guns. His shoulder guns are fine. They stay right where they're at. And we're going to start kind of going back into robot mode. So let's go ahead and untab these. Pull that over, just like that. We want to untab this, but we don't want to fully put them back where they go. And we want to come under here and take this off, the whole thing. And then we will go ahead and open up the legs all the way. And now comes the fun part of yanking this out. I'm not going to make you watch that again. All right, so now you want to take him at the hips and sit him up, just like that. And then we'll take these. Oh, that kind of got in the way there. Extend those out. You can also sort of move those little hip skirts up and rest them on top of there if that helps you in any way, shape, or form. All right, then right here on his butt, you're going to pick his butt. I said it, I can't unsay it. You want to take that and flip it down, just like so. And there's this little post right there. That post is going to go into here, but not yet, not yet, not yet. First, we got to transform this. So we're going to come under here, flip these open, just like so. And then that will let us take the entire tread sections here and fold them open, just like so. Just like that. And now we can take that peg into that post, just like so. All righty. Next, we want to take our hot rod attached to his gun, and we want to peg it in here. Now, on my copy, this peg is hella tight, like really, really tight. So I would be careful. I wouldn't try to peg that in quite all the way because don't want to break something trying to get it out of there. And hot rod's coming off. He don't want to be here. He don't want to be here. All right, so now we got hot rod attached. We're going to come up here to the cab, and we are going to rotate the whole upper torso, and we're going to transform the whole upper torso back into robot mode. All right, and last but not least, we want to take this and plug it onto the side here, and then put down your flaps, and there you have it. the greatest base in history. Oh, this is so. This is official. This is how this is actually supposed to be. It's basically Optimus Prime from the waist up, and then from the waist down, it's supposed to be, you know, the little fortress base thingy. Now, of course, you can have, you know, this open with these out if you want, you know, in case you want to put hot rod in there or anything else. And again, they have you do that with the head. I guess you could technically also do that if you so chose. That, you know, it's a thing you could do. And of course, you could sort of, because of the way the arms pose and whatnot, you can sort of pose them however you want. If you want to make it look more like he's got towers instead of, you know, just a big Optimus Prime sitting there watching over the city. Oh man, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but it's dumb in a fun way, and I love it. I love it. I really do. Oh man. You might have missed that, but this actually came unpegged. This isn't the tightest peg, so it does come apart pretty easily. And of course, the way they have those ramps going up there really makes me think again, maybe a Grandis. Oh, I missed a step. So there's also ramps right down here. Forgot these. I missed them. There we go. And again, you have those connectors at the ends of the ramps, so you can connect them onto your other little MicroMaster bases that have come out, or your other city bots. Now, they did incorporate in part of the vintage gimmick, kind of, sort of. It's just no longer motorized. You can turn this little dial right here and, you know, make Hot Rod throw up, if that's a thing that you're curious about doing. And this is why you want to make sure that those are tightly on there as you can get them, or as tightly on there as you can get them, because otherwise, if you do this, he'll go flying. Yeah, there he goes. There he goes. We killed Hot Rod. I know there's some people that are probably cheering for that. I liked Hot Rod. He's my boy. I love Hot Rod. He's my boy. And of course, you can also have Hot Rod, you know, hanging out over here. You can also put the gun over here. There is a little, you know, port over here, but I don't think you're going to be able to get the gun in there, as well as little ports here. And of course, again, if you have your little MicroMasters, there's lots of little places that they can stand in here and fit in here pretty easily. So there is that. So another thing that the instructions tell you can do is you take this into this form, and then you take your little matrix knife dagger thingy, and you plug this in like this, and then you plug it into the tip of the gun like so. So you can have the gun like that. Yeah, you can totally do that. I don't think I'll ever do that. That seems kind of dumb to me, if I'm being honest. And just for giggles, here is the Star Convoy put together with some of the MicroMasters to create, you know, a thing. And I've mistransformed him here in a way that looks a little bit more like some kind of sort of keep thing. I mean, come on. They're never going to look like a thing outside of just a robot. Oops. Outside of a robot just sort of laying down or flipped over. You know how this works. But yeah, you can still plug in the MicroMaster bases and, of course, Omega Supreme and all the cities and all that if you wanted to build one big thing. I doubt anybody actually has room for that, but hey, if you got it, you got it. So yeah, that's basically my overall look here at Star Convoy. So my final thoughts on this guy is that he's big dumb fun, but he's big dumb fun with a premium price tag. That Titan class price tag, which is going up every year, So I feel like this might have been sort of a test to see if maybe they could scale things down and scale down the cost a little bit in doing so, and still be sort of a good investment. And I feel like a lot of people aren't going to feel that way, because he is big and hollow, though still having a little bit of heft. Uh, he feels like those play school um, bases. You know what I mean? Like, what do I want to say? Like you see the big Batman robot that's also a play set for the little, um, play school things that are big dumb fun, but not super premium. And that's kind of what he feels like. So I think that some people are not going to enjoy this for that reason. Now, me, as I said, Star Convoy has always been one of my grails. And if you know anything about the original toy, you know it's a big, empty, hollow brick that you basically just stand up and it's a robot. Nowhere near as bad as Gradius. No, Grandis is. Sorry, God, my brain stopped for a minute. Uh, but so for me, yes, this is worth it, but I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me on that. And I think this is going to be one of those things where your mileage may vary. So, yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. Y'all have a good one.